We gather this morning in this Unitarian Universalist Church because we believe we must find the truth in our own hearts and use our own minds to figure out what is right and good. As the book of Ecclesiasticus tells us,
"Let the counsel of your own heart stand, for there is no one more faithful to you than your heart. For your own soul sometimes tells you more than 7 watchmen who sit above in a high tower."
And as the Roman Stoic Marcus Aurelius put it,
"Resolve to be a good person in every act you do. And remember, look within you. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if you will ever dig."
for the inner light in all of us that draws us here and sends us out again, we kindle this chalice flame. Would you join in the words printed in your order of service for the unison chalice lighting? The wheel of the year has turned again. Once more the Thanksgiving season has arrived. How shall we sing our song of gratitude now? For what shall we give thanks? For this moment, for friends near and far, for our breath, for love, for courage and clarity, for delight, for laughter, for beauty, for the tables round which we gather, to the food seasoned with love and memory. Join now in singing hymn number 67 in the gray hymnal, "We Sing Now Together." Please rise in body or spirit.
And now Tony will lead us in a story for all ages. If children would like to come forward, you can come on forward. All right.
And any adult who has a big kid inside them, you're welcome to come up too.
The story is called "Turn Your Shoes Around."
And this story comes from the Jewish tradition. And the story goes like this. There once was a man who just thought life wasn't worth living. He was just tired of everything. Everything in the world was too noisy. His home was too noisy. Nothing looked good. Music was off key. He thought it would be much better to go to heaven and be in paradise. And so he prayed to God one night, and he said, "God, please let me go to paradise. Show me paradise. I can't stand living here anymore." And that night he had a dream, and in the dream he heard a voice. And the voice said, "Are you sure you really want to give up this life?" And he said, "Yes, I'm sure. Please lead me to paradise." And then the voice said, "Well, I'll tell you what. Paradise is not far from where you are. It's about 2 days' journey. And so when you get up tomorrow morning, make sure you go to the north." Which way is north from here? That way? Okay. So he said, go to the north and go for about 2 days. You can sleep during the night and then wake up again. But in 2 days' journey, you will come to paradise. So the man did. He got up that morning, packed a little lunch, started on his walk, and he walked and walked and walked in that direction. And when nighttime came, he decided to sleep beneath a tree. And he was worried that he might forget the direction he was going in. Have you ever done that? You go somewhere and you think you know where you are, and you forget where. I find that with parking cars. I never know where I park my car. So he was afraid that he might forget what the right direction. So he took his shoes, which I brought. He loaned them to me. Just kidding. But anyway, he took his shoes like this, and he decided to put them in to face the direction that he was going in, so when he woke up, he wouldn't be wouldn't be mistaken. So I'm going to put these here. So he had them facing in the direction that he was going, and he went to bed. He fell asleep on the grass by the tree, and when he woke, but during the night, a strange thing happened. No one knows whether maybe a raccoon or something picked them up by accident, or an imp, or someone just thought it'd be funny, but someone turned the shoes around. And so when he got up the next morning to put his shoes on, he put them on, and he started going this way. But he thought that he was still going in the same direction. So he was going another day's journey, and he finally got to a hill, and he looked over it, and there was the most beautiful village he had ever seen. And he thought, this must be paradise. So he hurried up and went into the village, and everyone there was really friendly. Unlike his hometown, where people were generally mean, he thought these people were very friendly. And he knew it must be paradise because people called him by name. And he thought, they've prepared for me, and everyone was nice, and so good to see you. And then he began getting hungry, and he thought, I wonder if they have a place for me to live here. And he thought, well, if they do, it would probably look a little bit like the place I had before. So he went in that part of the village where his house, he thought, would have been, and he saw a house. It wasn't his house. It looked like his house, kind of, but it was way better. It was bright. It was clean. And he walked inside, and there were kids smiling and laughing and not yelling at each other. And this woman came out who looked kind of like his wife, only she looked really good now. And she said, he said, I must be in paradise. And she said, I don't know about that, but there's hot soup waiting for you to eat here on the table. I'm glad you got in time. So he said, oh, great. So he had the soup. It was the best soup he'd ever had. The potatoes were the best potatoes he'd ever had. He thought, finally I know what paradise is like. And he went to bed. He had the best night's sleeping he ever did. And when he woke up in the morning, had a great breakfast. And then this woman who looked kind of like his wife, she said, don't forget to go outside. You've got some chores to do. And he said, chores in heaven? I can't imagine that they have, work to do in paradise. But then he thought, well, even a place like paradise has to be kept up. So he said, okay, and he went out and he did these chores. But you know what? He knew he wasn't in his town, in his original village, because these chores were fun to do. I mean, they were the same jobs, but they just were so much more fun to do. And he found it so fulfilling. And when he got back home later for lunch and then for dinner, the children there were greeting him. They all knew his name too. So did this woman who looked like his wife. And so he decided for the rest of his life he was just very happy and was so happy to find paradise. And no one could ever convince him that he'd just come back to his own village. But what do you think? You think what? He was at, you figured that out, huh? All right. He was at his own village. So what does this story tell us? I kind of think it tells us that some of the things that we complain about, if we really had a chance to leave them for a while and come back and look, we might say they're way nicer than we thought. Maybe our brothers and sisters that we normally think are a pain. Do any of you feel that about brothers or sisters? Yeah, okay. So maybe if you can imagine that you're living in paradise where everything is wonderful and you can see your friends, your family, your school, whatever chores you have as this wonderful thing to do, then you'll have the spirit of thanksgiving in you. Because that's really what Thanksgiving means, to be grateful for what you have and not worry so much about what you don't have. All right? Thank you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So I'll send you out.